Hey folks, what's going on? What's going on? It's been a minute and a half since I've been on live. I think I've done some Facebook lives, but I haven't been on B Live. But anyway, I'm gonna give it a minute to warm up and then I'm gonna go in full throttle, as Del Toro would say, right? Full throttle. Man, we are deep into December. How you guys doing out there? How's your December shaping up? Are you ready for everything that the month brings? You got your gifts all ready to be given out and got your gifts all wrapped and you're ready for Christmas and you're ready for, your holiday vacation, your holiday travel, the kids all set, your significant others all set. We got a lot of stuff going on over here. But anyway, I'm gonna give it another minute or two and then I am going to get started because everybody's got something going on. They got webinars and seminars, and believe it, even deep into December, people are doing events. And in some ways, that's where it's supposed to be, keeping it real. But you have to have some time for yourself. That's where I struggle, getting that balance in, having time for rest and relaxation. Yeah, those are the things that come along with loving what you do and maybe loving it a little bit too much. Okay, so anyway, we're going to get started. I don't know about y'all, but every time I start something, I like to do it the best that I can. I like to be exciting with it. I like to make people feel good. I want them to be left in awe. I want them to be like, wow, that was great. Give them some of that good old, that just that wow factor, So we're going to do it. Do you hear that? Y'all know I'm cutting up, right? I am just cutting up just because I can. But that's real though. I want to give you that wow factor, like, what's going on? And then just bam, 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 bam. Hit you with some nuances, some insights, some things that maybe you never heard before, never considered before. So if you have your pen, your pad, your Evernote, Penzu, whatever you use to take notes, this will be a good time. Today, I'm talking about the fact that it's time. And what is it time for? I'm going to tell you about that. I really think that this brief training is really about or for the entrepreneur and the non-entrepreneur. So the entrepreneur or the employee, it doesn't matter. If you're both, you get tips and takeaways from both portions. But I want to talk about, let's think about 5 different tips that you can take away and hopefully take yourself into the upcoming year. Now, the key is you got to be ready and you got to be willing and able. Ready, willing, and able. So for the entrepreneur, just because it's the end of the year, it's December, doesn't mean you stop doing what you're doing. You got to keep going. I was told a long time ago that if you've got mo on your side, momentum, you do not want to lose it. You want to keep going. I've done a lot of stuff this year, speaking engagements, interviews, broadcasts, trainings, coaching, all that kind of good stuff, right? And although they may be varying in the area or the platform, they're all related to the same thing: dealing with people, working with people, and helping people. And that's why I say it's time. And keeping it real, you want to stay in an area of whatever you're doing that complements you, but people also get something out of it. So for the entrepreneurs, once again, write that down. You may want to take some notes because I'm going to hit it fast and I'm going to keep going. If you got a good memory, fine. Remember it or memorize it, okay? But you want to keep going. And that means keeping the momentum going, keeping your flow going, keeping your ability and agility, fluid, and having the ability to bounce back, to be really quick on your feet with words and responses and answers and all that kind of thing. And with activity as well, of course. You also want to think about the prospecting. You got to keep calling, because just because you knock something out the box today, what's going to happen tomorrow or 2 days from now, right? You've got to keep calling. You got to stay on top of, your game. You have to keep the momentum going. You have to keep the interest there. You have to stay relevant, and you have to stay visible. Okay, prospecting, same thing, calling, prospecting. You want to keep doing all those things because those are the things that got you that engagement. Those are the things that keep you in front of people, letting people know that you are about your business. You are catering to your calling, so hashtag catering to your calling. That's important. Also, you want to keep building. Did I say it's time? It's time. Building what, right? You want to keep building relationships. You want to keep building, of course, your revenue. You want to keep building on you, what's inside here. You got to keep building. Next, you got to keep creating. It's time to keep creating. Whatever you do, sometimes things change. Now, for all of you entrepreneurs, at one point there was Google Hangout. There still is. But then there was Blab, and then there was this, and there was that. So you have to be able to keep creating, because regardless of the platform, you want to make sure that whatever you have, it complements whatever the next thing is or whatever the current thing is. And after a certain point, people may not really realize that although they've seen you before, they've heard you before, maybe they didn't get all the lessons. So as you're evolving, you're going to create different approaches, sometimes for the same thing, but you're going to make it better. So you're evolving and you're innovating. You're creating new, innovative approaches to reach your ideal client. And that's really important. And if you're an entrepreneur, as they say in the music business, you're only as good as your last hit. So if you're only as good as your last hit, that means you need to stay on grind. You got to stay in the studio. You got to stay working it out. You got to stay in a mode that lets you keep developing not just products and services, but developing yourself. That's important. So that's what I wanted to share with you for the entrepreneur. So let me just sort of summarize. I said it's time. It's time. And that literally means it's time for you to honestly see yourself for who you are. Also, I think in my last, my book called Aligned by Design, I talk about critical in-depth analysis. It's also time for critical in-depth analysis. What does that mean, Charles? That means it's time for you to size yourself up. That means it's time for you to really look at yourself, for who you are. Look at yourself for who you are not also. You need to really be honest with yourself to say to yourself whether or not you've got the goods. You need to tweak something. You're spot on, so keep doing what you're doing. Whatever it may be, if changes are needed, sometimes you have to try to step outside of yourself and be critical of yourself. Now, I know for a lot of us, it's hard to do. I know for me, it can be challenging. A lot of times we only see ourselves a particular way. And the people that are close to you and that really care about you and that like you, honestly, they may be biased. They may think you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they don't see the holes in your program. They don't see what's missing. So, a long time ago, I did this a write-up saying, does your coach know this? And the whole point is sometimes you may not have a coach. Maybe, let's say you literally at the moment cannot afford to invest in a coach. Well, who's going to put you in check if you don't have a coach? Who's going to redirect your path if you don't have a mentor? Who's going to help you out when there's no one there? You have to be willing and able to be critical of yourself. And it's not criticizing, but critiquing the things that you're doing. Are they working? Should they be better? Should they be different? And I see this in myself a lot. I have done a lot of things that could and should be better. And sometimes it may be just simply consistency. But the point is, you have to be willing to critique yourself. That's why I call it critical in-depth analysis. You want to analyze everything from A to Z that you do, or everything from A to Z that you don't do. That's really important. Now, this is the last thing for the entrepreneur. You want to be grateful. And having gratitude is really important because if you have gratitude, that shows an appreciation for the journey, the path that you're on. And what type of gratitude or why gratitude? Well, if you're able to be critical or to critique yourself, you may see things that are not good. But you know what? You're probably a lot further on in your journey than you were before. So you should be able to appreciate those things. And, there's nothing like realizing, what? I'm not where I want to be, but I'm a lot further than where I used to be. And I'm going to keep trying to get better. I'm going to keep working at getting better. Maybe I will get a coach. Maybe I will be able to invest in myself and get a mentor. Maybe I will do whatever I need to do so that I can speed up my learning curve and be a little bit better, be seen more professionally, do all the little small things that make the big things possible. And honestly, you also got to be grateful for your failures, because in your failures, that's how you learn. I mean, you can learn from both sides, but a lot of times it's so easy to overlook the failure. We get upset with ourselves, critical of ourselves because of the failure, but we don't really learn from the failures. And, in my book, Radiate, the Brain and Change the Game, I talk about the benefits of mistakes, failures, mistakes. They're almost the same thing. And the point is, both of them, failures and mistakes, you can learn a lot from them. You learn what not to repeat. You also learn, the smaller aspects of failure or mistakes by learning, did you do something a little bit too soon, or should you tweak it? Whatever it may be. But there's a lot that you can benefit from failures in your business and, of course, in your life. So let me just do a quick recap. Okay, so we talked about keep going. You've got to keep going. You've got to also keep calling your prospects, keep calling clients, keep calling whomever it is that you need that's going to help your business or help you move forward, get better, get that polish on you, whatever it's going to take to allow you to shine. Keep building, keep being creative, and keep being innovative. Those are so critical in your business, and you can't afford to lay back on your laurels just because you've had one or two gigs here. I've made those mistakes, but you know what? You got to keep going, and you got to keep finding different ways to get out there and earn and be worthy and to be worthwhile. So number one is to keep going, keep calling, keep building, keep creating, and keep innovating. If you haven't seen that, or if you haven't written that down, write it down. If you need to look at the replay to check it out, look at the replay to check it out, because I'm telling you, there's some things here that you may not have heard in the way that I'm presenting it today. And I know it's going to serve you because I've learned how to use those things in my business. The next thing we talked about was CID, critical in-depth analysis. Critical in-depth analysis is really important. And again, why it was important, because we talked about you need to be able to size yourself up. You have to be willing to critique yourself. Step outside of who you really are and look at yourself from step outside of yourself and analyze yourself. Check the analysis. Be willing to say, hey, I'm good at this or I'm good at that, but there's things that I don't do. There's things that I need to do differently or do better. Or maybe I need to do some research to find out how to do some things because something's missing. You'll never be able to do that if you don't step outside of yourself and truly be critical or critique your performance. Critical or critique, the back end of your business. It's always easy to get out in the front, but are you ready to get out in the front? Are you doing or have you done the different little things that prepare you so that when you are in the front, everything is looking right? Everything is sized up properly. It makes sense, and you look good. You represent yourself well. And then we also talked about being grateful. Now, all that was for the entrepreneur. And the benefit of being grateful was to look at your successes and your failures and learning from them. Now, in essence, everything's about learning, benefiting from your overall analysis of this three things that I'm giving you. Now, all three things, they do have subtopics or subsections, but the point is you want to be able to look at them and really be able to, scammers, you want to be able to look at them and get as much meat out of it as possible. And like my friend Dr. Mangum says, we want to toss the bones. All right, now for the employee, these things are critical for you. And again, it's time. It is definitely time. It's time for you to really look at yourself differently, see yourself differently, which is why I'm always saying you got to radiate the brain and change the game. Because when you change the way you think, you have the opportunity of changing the way you visual see things and the way that you act. And if you can change the way you think, the way you see things, and the way you act, you will get different results. That's a fact. So radiate the brain and change the game. But at the end of the day, it's all about knowing that it's time to make that shift when you need to make that shift. Because if you're not going to move forward in your own life or in your own business, trust me, someone else is moving forward in their business and someone else is also moving forward in their life. That's why people pass other people by. And some folks, they remain in the same spot, standing there, not realizing how it happened because you didn't do the work to get the results. And as the saying goes, are you telling me that you did the work and didn't get the results? Or are you telling me that you did not do the work and then you did not get the results? Because the latter always is going to make sense every time. But if you do the work, that also would make sense. So again, let me just move forward. If you are the employee, now there's a few things that you do or can do to shift or change your position. Simple. You got to be willing to bet on you. That's it. It's not a big deal. You've got to be willing to bet on you. Now, I understand sometimes as an employee, you're reluctant. You're not comfortable with betting on you. What does that mean? You have to take a chance on you. You have to put yourself first. And I know sometimes if you have a family, you may feel like it's a difficult situation, but trust me, you do not want to live your entire life or 20, 30, 40 years, having children, grandchildren, children growing up, moved out, and you are in the same position and you've never tried to do something different. You've never tried to stand out from the crowd. And meanwhile, all of your friends have done things, become successful, or moved away or passed away, and you're still in the exact same place, kind of just very timid about life, never knowing if you could have been successful. So you got to be willing to bet on you. I say it all the time in my keynotes, and if I do a breakout, it's the same thing. You are the best thing in town. You are the best thing going on. And if you don't bet on you, why would anyone else bet on you? Why should anyone else bet on you? Don't you think that you're worth it? So write that down. You've got to be willing to bet on you. Take a chance on yourself. Trust me when I tell you, there's something inside of you that resonates with someone, but you'll never know what it is that resonates with other people, and you'll never know what it is and how much it resonates if you don't bet on you and take a chance at bringing that thing to the forefront. Very, very important, critical. Okay. The next thing, if you're an employee, think about this. You got to get away from what doesn't work. I'm talking about activities. I'm talking about people. If it doesn't work, it's only holding you back, holding you down, not allowing you to breathe, not allowing you to live, not allowing you to be the full version of yourself, and honestly speaking, I know people think, oh, everyone's an entrepreneur. Well, you know what? This country and probably the world in its inception at a point was full of entrepreneurs until the entrepreneurs needed help. When the entrepreneurs needed help, then they created jobs. You see what I'm saying? Somebody had a big idea, and that idea was so big they couldn't do it all themselves, but they were confident that their idea would work. So what they did was they got someone to help them. That helper was called an employee, and what the helper had was a job. So you have to look at things a little differently. You know, when you see things differently, you can get different results, but you have to be willing to look at things differently. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work. And I know sometimes it can be really scary to walk the high wire without the net. That's what Bob Cripps says. You know, in life, we live one time, but you got to be willing to walk the high wire without the net. That means you got to be able to do something, take a chance on you doing something, of course, not knowing what the results are going to be. But you're so into it, you have so much passion for it, you're so good at it that even though you don't know the results, you're willing to do it. So you've got to be willing to do, as Les Brown would say, right? You've got to be willing to do the things today that others won't do in order to have the things tomorrow others won't have. And that's, my friends, is life. If you don't, I promise you, you will be in the same position the entirety of your life. Things and people will pass you by and you won't see it coming. You won't understand it. And you probably won't have a very fulfilled life. Sorry to tell you, but that's just what it is. I really believe in people. I believe that people have what it takes to get what they want. Again, that's why I'm always saying radiate the brain and change the game, because what goes on in here can get that machine going. It gets the thoughts going, getting the ideas going, and then you can start to begin to search yourself and take action. But you can't take action just by staying still and being around the same people doing the same things. Okay, what else? Okay. You got to be willing to face the truth. As Ayala Van Zandt, I always mess her name, but Ayala Van Zandt says, call a thing. Whatever it is. Doesn't mean you got to be mean about it, hard or nasty about it. But if something is good, say it's good. If it's bad, say it's bad. If it's perplexing, say it's perplexing. Whatever it is, you've got to be willing to call something out for what it is, and do not be afraid. Look, you have lived your life for the most part if you're an adult. If you've got a job and you're an adult, you didn't see some things, you failed some things, why not bet on you, get rid of the things that don't work, and call a thing a thing? You know, face the truth. You know, not saying something or not facing something for what it is has never proven to help you. It has never been proven that that makes a person more wealthy. That has never been proven that that makes a person feel better. Basically, you're stuffing your emotions because you don't want to address things. And let me tell you, November and December, this is the time of the year where the emotions run extremely high. A lot of people feel really bad, really distant, sometimes even simply depressed because they think about their past. They think about when they were children. They think about the people that they have lost in life and they're no longer here. Now you're 20, 30, 40 years older. You know, your friends are no longer around, or you're not a child, or if something good happened to you then, those experiences are far gone, and people really get depressed. And a lot of people, they do all kinds of things to hurt themselves, but that does not have to be your story. And this is why I'm doing this today. That's why I say it's time. It's time to really see things for what they are. It's time to call things on or for what they are and be real with yourself. You've got to be honest with yourself. You deserve a chance just like everyone else. We see all these reality shows. We see all this stuff that goes on in the world. What are you willing to do that's going to help you or help you and your family? I just say it for what it is, so you got to be able to face the truth. And finally, for the employee, you've got to be able to Just like I said, for the entrepreneurs, you got to be able to be grateful. You want to be able to see things from a different lens. And simply that just means look at things differently. When you look at things differently, you see things differently. If I look at you the same way, like I expect you to be a certain way, 9 times out of 10, that's all I'm going to see. But if I look at you with an open mind and an open heart, I may learn something different about you. It's the same thing when it comes to people or when it comes to things. Like if I'm trying to learn something and I was told that it's hard or it's difficult, well, that's the lens I'm looking at with the expectation of difficulty. But if I say, all right, let me just look at this and see if any of it makes sense to me, I begin to shift my view. I begin to shift the lens in which I look at a thing. And then I may understand the logic behind it, the philosophy behind it, the steps in the process. And if you can understand the steps and the process, respect the philosophy, and see it differently, it may not seem to be so difficult to you. And that's really, really key. I'm always talking about people, tell your story, live your story, be your story. Well, the truth of the matter is you should tell your story. Everyone has a story, but not everyone is willing to tell their story. Some people don't think that their life is worth telling, or I don't want anyone to know my business. That is what helps people grow, learning from one another. You don't want your family to not know how you really feel. If you can't express it, write it, type it, tell it, show it. Let it be seen, let it be known. You never know. You may have an Amazon bestseller, a New York Times bestseller, right in your mind, in your CPU, that you can download to pen and paper or to a computer file in Microsoft or whatever, and that could be the beginning of something really new. So it's time. It's time to look at things differently. It's time to really size yourself up differently. It's time to look at things and say, let me take a chance on me. So let me give you a summary real quick. I talked about, for the employee, the fact that it's time for you to bet on you. Take a chance on you. That was number one. Take a chance on you. Number two, you want to be able to get away from what doesn't work. And that means people or things. You don't want to go around to the club. You don't want to just go to the happy hour, or you don't want to just go to the buffet. If you're trying to lose weight, you don't need to be at the buffet. If you have a problem with drinking, you don't need to go to the happy hour. Or if you go to the buffet, the bar, the happy hour, whatever, and you can't get home easily without spending extra money, don't go there. You got to get away from things that don't work for you. Then we talked about facing the truth. Nothing like being honest with yourself. Nothing like being honest with yourself. You don't always need someone to tell you that you're looking at things wrong. Be honest with you. And then finally, we talked about being grateful. The importance of being grateful and seeing things through a different lens. Honestly, these are probably two separate topics I could have built on. But the point is, you're either an entrepreneur or you're an employee or you're both. You're in one of three positions. And regardless of what position you're in, I know that this can be beneficial to you. But you have to be willing to take that medicine, swallow that pill, and be willing to act on it. Look at 2019. The next upcoming year is right around the corner, literally days away. How are you going to start this year? Is it going to be the same way with the New Year's resolution? Why not start it with the New Year's solution? Look at things differently. Attack life differently. Raise yourself to a higher standard. Give yourself more credit than you've ever done before. Go for it, full throttle, all the way live. Do the thing and make it worth your while. Let's see what kind of time frame I'm looking at, because I'm not really even sure, honestly. Yeah, okay, so we're almost closing out. So before we close out, I just want to tell you, it's important that You bet on you. And it really doesn't matter whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur, because the key is that you have to be willing to put yourself first. We only go around once. We see the condition that this world is in. We see this condition. We see how standards have changed. And the truth of the matter is, who knows what's going to happen the next day? What are they going to vote for? Is the economy going to remain stable? You've got to be willing to bet on you. I tell people again that they have so much going on now. If you've seen some of the things I've done, we've got a social media talk show getting ready to come out. I've been doing workshops and all these interviews and stuff. And it's not that I'm trying to brag or impress you. I'm trying to impress upon you, I'm not doing anything that you cannot do. So why not get out there and get in the mix and do it? In January, the third week in January, I'm doing a workshop. Tell your story, live your story, be your story. Join me. Write your own book. Tell your own story. Tell your story. Let me see if I can post that up there. Tell your story, live your story, be your story. Yes, January 19th. We're going to be at the Country Inn and Suites. Come on out. It's a Saturday, the third Saturday. I believe it's the third Saturday in the month of January 2019. Join us. I'm going to be taking public speaking and book writing, combining it in one workshop. Join me so you can learn how you can tell your own story. Just go to the website. While it's still available, you can get a discount, 30% off. Just come to the workshop and learn the nuances of public speaking. Learn the nuances of writing a book. I've written 6 books, 4 different genres. I think I may know a thing or two that may be beneficial to you. And again, it's not to try and impress you. This is what I do. It's to try and impress upon you that if you've ever wanted to tell your story, you want to be able to literally do it. You want to be able to write that book. Look, many of my clients, they are writing books. They are creating products. They are creating workshops. They are creating conferences. And if they were doing one already, they're adding one of the other elements. For instance, one of my clients was already doing events, but they had no products. Now they have audio programs. Now they got books coming out. This is what I do. I want you to be the best version of yourself. If you don't believe me, ask my clients. They have come a long way, and they're still grinding, not just working with me, but they're working with themselves on their own terms, doing their own events and their own things. Bishops, ministers, everyday folks, mothers. I'm just telling you what I know and telling you what it is. It's time, folks. It's time for you to tell your story, live your story, and be your story. I would love to hear your comments. Love to hear any questions you may have. In fact, let me just put up here. This is where you go. If you really want to, change your upcoming year, change your life, change your 2019 and beyond, get registered for the workshop. Tell your story, live your story, be your story. Listen, it's not a conference. It's a workshop. I've already got people signed up, but I'm only looking for a couple more people so that you can come on out, get yourself registered. We're going to feed you and we're going to pour into you all day. It's a full day boot camp. Again, we're taking public speaking and book writing and combining them in one workshop. And we go in deep, role play, scenarios. We're going to talk about everything. I don't know if you can see this, but I believe you can learn by doing. Simply learn by doing. If you can see this, you'll know. Q&A, role play, scenario, gifts, swag bags, video training. Look, I've been doing this for quite some time. I like what I'm doing. I'm going to the next level myself, not just from doing my own events, but because of the fact that people are bringing me in to do events for their clients. In January, March, April, I'm already on the books. I want you to be on the books doing your stuff. I want you to be on the books doing your stuff. So it's all about tell your story, live your story, and be your story. Again, your children are watching you. Your grandchildren are watching you. Probably people in the pew next to you, or the neighbors that you have. Why not be something phenomenal for you? Not for me, for you and your family. Come on out to the Wordsmith event. The Wordsmith Speakers Alliance is the website, and get registered for the Tell Your Story, Live Your Story, Be Your Story boot camp. I would love to pour into you and get a chance to meet you. If you got any other comments, please, by all means, post them. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I love to, hear your perspective. Share this out, in fact. Share this out to someone that you know that is interested in writing their book or interested in being a public speaker. All right, Sir Charles Cary, I'm signing off. And as always, you got to be willing to radiate the brain and change the game. Y'all take care, and I'll see you next time.